welcome back. My name is Toyin Ayandare, and I'm bringing to you the Financial Freedom Now show. We're going to be talking about something very exciting, and the reason why it's exciting is because I've actually I went through this, and I just want to share with you my journey and how I was able to overcome this and navigate this season, and how if you are going through this, you can actually learn from my experience, but also prepare you if at all you haven't and make sure you avoid the mistakes that have. We're talking about navigating economic changes and being able to get financial strategies for uncertain times. Now, uncertain times can be quite broad because it might be an uncertain time brought by a mistake you've made, or it might be just the economic climate has changed, or it just things have happened out of your control and you have no idea how to go about this unexpected time in your life. Now, this certainly happened to me a few years ago, and it was tough because that was not the norm. That's what wasn't what I was used to. I'd been used to building and things were working and building a business, getting the return, building a business. And obviously, like as you may know, your lifestyle is now being based on this sort of financial future, that financial outset that you have. And all of a sudden the tide changes, things changes for you, and if you do not know what to do in this season, you might actually find yourself break. A lot of people, I mean, businesses have gone bust because they've gone through this. Lives have been terminated. I mean, sad to say, but there are people that have actually committed suicide because the financial outlook changed. Things, the season changed. There was something uncertain, and they didn't know how to deal with it. Now, obviously, this is a Financial Freedom Now show, and we're talking all things financial, but this also relates to other areas of your life and how you are able to deal with situations when they happen in a different format or different way that you expected. I want us to talk about how this can happen. Now, obviously, we talk about this is personal and what you've done wrong or not done wrong or things out of your control. Sometimes it actually can be an economic challenge, an economic change. For example, we have a pandemic. This killed a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses did not survive. And one of the reasons why this might be is not being able to navigate this season or that time in their life. I think one thing to acknowledge is the reality that things will not always be the same. Change is a constant thing. Now, it could always change for good, it could change for worse, it could just be stagnant. I mean, I always say to everyone, if you knew exactly what every single day would bring, then everyone will be prepared. What changes you from the next person is how you react to what happens, how you allow the external factors affects you inwardly, whether your happiness or your proactiveness or your approach to life is what's really important. So please understand that change is constant. This happens to the best of us, and brings me to the next point, which I'm saying, which relates to the importance of preparing and having a good financial plan. Your preparedness in your financial planning can go a long way to helping you navigate this season or navigate that period. I, for one, learned that even though I did have a financial plan, I realized when I went through it that my financial planning wasn't robust enough. Again, so it's one thing to have one, but not even having a robust one, even worse, was damaging. So if you do not have any financial plan, then even worse. So make sure you understand and you prepare a financial plan, a robust one at it. Now, of course, I didn't have a robust one. One of the lessons I've learned from going through my experience is now knowing that I need a robust financial plan. And so if anything were ever to happen in the future, I'm better prepared. So again, I mean, whilst we're sharing this, your reality might be the opportunity to learn from what I'm saying today, and that would help you prepare. Or you might actually have to go through certain things, and then it gets you ready for the next stage. So not to say that if you prepare, you're going to have 100% control over everything that happens. No, it just helps you navigate that season. It doesn't stop it from happening. It just helps you navigate that, right? And then also the next thing that I think is very important when it comes to getting financial strategies for uncertain times is you having emergency financial planning, which is what I did, right? Like I said earlier, I didn't have a robust financial plan, but when I did, I had to go into almost an emergency mode, all right? Literally putting a plan in place. This is where you're going to be very, very quick in reactions. It's almost like you can see a storm coming. You can see a disaster coming, right? And you realize that you didn't prepare well enough for this. Your home is not full of enough to actually take you through the season. And what do? Do you decide that, oh my goodness, and sit down and start crying and being a pity case? Or do you then sort of put on your boots and go to work, go to war, and to try and work towards it? My experience was I decided to go to work and realize there was no one that put me in this situation. I took accountability of where I was, what has happened, and how I can navigate the situation. And I went into emergency planning. Now, what is never going to be the best, being able to do things in rushed. You're now your plan is more emotional. Your plan is more emotional because you're now reacting to what seems to be coming, as against when you were able to have a clear thinking and clarity, and you could do that plan. But again, it's something. The other thing in terms of emergency planning is, have you got emergency funds? What's the impact? Do you have an account, or do you have any funds put aside for emergency situations that, I mean, they're not part of your monthly your monthly expenditure. They're not part of things that you plan for, but it happens. So do you have access to an emergency fund? What does that look like? Does that need to be increased? How do you need to, do you top it up? What do you do in terms of trying to put something towards that and just sort of plan towards it? So emergency planning could managing financial planning could mean you be very, very quick and reactive and flexible to get a plan together if you realize and find yourself in a situation where things are not necessarily as you imagined. Or have you got an emergency fund that you could rely on that will take you through that season? Now, I mean, we could all sit here and say, well, we have 10 years financial funds in the bank account. Do you need that much? No, of course. But someone can say that that's how much, and someone can say 1 month. There is a middle point, right? Because obviously, if you the ideal thing is having, say, for example, having 12 months of spend. But the truth is, if that season goes past 2 years, 5 years, what happens to you? So, which is why the reactive and the being quick and proactive in terms of putting together an emergency financial plan is very essential. So, what are the investment strategies you should have that would outperform any economic downturn? Um, I've always emphasized the value of having passive income. Active income is good. I mean, one of the things I didn't even highlight when we're talking about this was even talking about uncertain times is people become unwell. They go through seasons of sicknesses that they didn't even plan for, and then there is just so much. So I guess in regard to this, your investment and plan in investment strategy in terms of this uncertain times. What are you putting into place? Um, there are things of critical illness cover is something that you need to think about in this. There's life insurance, again, something you need to think about if you do not have one. So look at putting one in place. But what about you actually getting passive income? Because yes, you are trading your time for money by going to a job, and that's good, is paying well. What happens if you can't go to work? I was at Bible study last week, and someone mentioned this, that have you ever met people who, despite going through such painful health conditions, cannot afford to take time off work? They still go to work in that painful situation just because they have no other way around it. They have no other ways to pay their bills or make their income, and it's such a terrible place. I've been there. You feel so caged. You feel like life is being stuffed out of you, and yet you have no control. You can do nothing about it. This is exactly what happens when you only have active income, which means you're trading your time for money. This is the time for you to start thinking, how can I get passive income? Passive income doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It just means it doesn't have a huge pull or weight on your time, and yet you still get income. So it's something. Now this is the time for you to start thinking of that, especially in economic downturns. You want to start thinking of what values. They're all going to have different weightings, different values they bring to you. But which one can you explore? Which one is within your current skill set that you can maximize to actually make this happen for you? And then obviously this now goes into when we talk about active and passive. This now goes to the value of actually diversifying your income, diversification in all realms, and what your risk management looks like. What are you actually exposed to doing in terms of your investment strategies? There are loads of people that will think, oh, I'll do shares, invest in property, I'll invest in forex, I will invest in. There are loads of opportunities out there right now, but which one actually aligns with you? Which one do you resonate with? What are you going to start doing tomorrow to make sure that you can actually have financial strategies in place for any uncertain time? Now, please do not make any mistake that I'm saying that in any way that, oh well, you're going to have uncertain times. No, we're not saying that. But what I'm saying is, it is given that change is a constant thing, and things are not always going to be the way it is now for you. So if it's very good now, it could even get a lot better. But it's very good now. You could also experience from reduced speed. Do you understand? I guess that's the way of things could actually slow down a little bit. And what does that look like for you? And I think this is very important to understand that even whilst we're having to build our lifestyle around our increased income, have some thinking behind it. Don't just spend every single funds that come to your account just because you know that, oh well, I'm in a salary job, I'm earning £1 million a month, and so I can imagine I'm going to keep earning that, especially for those that are in a salary job, because that income is based on someone else making a decision that they will keep going working, they will keep doing this so that you can have a job or two. If that person decides, you know what, I've had enough, I want to close down this company tomorrow, what does that look like for you? What would that lifestyle you've built on, that income without any thinking behind it, what would that happen? So what would that look like? So it's very important to adapt your budget, which is the next point. Adapt your budget and your spending to a means that is sustainable. And when I say sustainable means, it's not just going to be fully based on your salary job, because that's out of your control. As a matter of fact, even having a business doesn't mean it's fully in your control. Yes, to a large extent, certain things, certain decisions you make would align, and you can actually take a view. However, I mean, a good example I gave earlier was the pandemic. No matter how thriving a business was, they experienced something that was totally shocking and not as expected. So make sure that you adapt your budget and your spending as required. If you're going through a season that is not palatable, do not be afraid to reduce or cut your expenses. On every unnecessary expenses during an economic uncertainty needs to be cut off. I mean, there are certain things that you have, subscriptions you have, that is a nice to have. In seasons where you need to cut it off, please go ahead and cut it off. Do not listen to the voice in your head that will tell you, oh, what will other people think? Other people aren't paying your bills. So if you're going through an uncertain time, please do not hold back in cutting down unnecessary expenses, and discuss the important, you need to discuss with family, friends, right? The importance of being frugal in that period, making sacrifices. And for a lot of people, especially the breadwinners, this is a season that is very difficult to have that communication with your loved ones, to say to them, you know what, things are not the way it was. We might need to not actually go on holidays as often as we used to, or we might not be able to go on any at all. And yes, it's not going to be happy to hear that, but it is something you've got to sort of embrace that season, work with it, learn the lessons that needs to be very sensitive to absorb whatever lessons that needs to be learned in that season, because there's no point going through that pain and not learning from it. You want to learn any great lesson that needs to be learned in that season, absorb it, learn from it, use it as a pedestal onto the next level, because that this is now an experience that you've gone through that can never be taken away from you. Lastly, make sure to seek professional advice. If you need help, if you need to have a mentor, a financial planner, an accountant, a tax advisor, whatever it is, anyone that can seek to give you help in that season, make sure to go for it. Do not weather that storm on your own. Do not get overwhelmed just thinking that you are alone in this. Everyone at some point in their life will go through seasons that are totally out of their control, whether financial or otherwise. Especially as an entrepreneur, you might find yourself going through the seasons. So it's important that you do not let it consume you. You go through it like fire, let it refine you and drop off everything that needs to go in that period and help you step onto the next stage of your life and let the lessons you've learned be that push to discover the better version of yourself. Until next time, all I'll say is make sure you are prepared for the next season. God bless you.